Okay, good. It's been a struggle for me to learn that I have depression while working in that stressful environment. And it's also been a privilege because I can meet my patients halfway and understand where they're coming from. It's been difficult at times to see how different people in the population are affected by stigma from mental health issues. You can sometimes hear things like, I don't want to take care of that person. They have a history of bipolar. They're crazy. And I don't think people realize how damaging that is, just that phrase. So it's so important for us to leave our judgment behind.
And it was at the peak change in temperature, then we knew it was a 2-to-1 ratio.
When I thought about my depression, I always thought it was very situational. So anyone who went through what I went through would have been depressed. Well, I was 9 when my father died. We worked with social services for many years, and I went into foster care. It wasn't until years later, when I'd had my own children and when I started to watch my children grow and worry about, am I loving them the right way, that I all of a sudden felt this huge loss. Like, where was this for me? I just never felt happy. And I was doing all the right things. I would, read to my kids, and I would cook nice meals, and I would exercise, and I gardened, and I just felt nothing. And I could watch my kids, and I could feel pride in them, but I didn't always feel connected to everybody. And I still had never gone to counseling, never looked at things that had happened in my youth. I thought a lot about suicide. And I had said something to a friend, and the friend had gotten worried about me and had called the police. This female police officer shows up. She put me in the back of the police car and she drove me to Regions. And I thought, well, I'm just going to tell the truth. Okay, sure. I tried to kill myself. It didn't work. I'm okay. And I just remember this one social worker coming down to do an interview, and she looked at me and she goes, you lack complete insight into your illness. It was true. I really had no concept of what was happening to me. I remember my husband leaving, the doctor assuring him that I was going to be well cared for. So it kind of took me right back to that place I was when I was 15 and really, really depressed. I had such fantastic care at the hospital. I spent a little over a week there. And I did try a couple medications like most people do for antidepressants. It never seems like we get the right one right off the bat, so I don't have a strong opinion either way. I sort of feel like they're the professionals and I want them to take a look and see what would be best for me. Because if my endocrinologist tells me that I need to take insulin, I will take my insulin. If my psychiatrist tells me that I need to take a medication for depression, then I need to take that medication. I started sewing again. I started spinning yarn again. I like to do a lot of yoga. Another thing I like to do is exercise. That's really important, the physical activity, because that releases all kinds of great chemicals and hormones in the body. And I think that was really valuable to have my family be a part of my recovery.
You know, we survived it, and I'm amazed by you and what you've done to recover, to do the hard work that it takes.
I had been under the impression that you were just there for the diabetic reaction, and so it was kind of like the first time that I had really gotten to see you and realize what you were going through, and so it was scary in a sense, but
So what about it was scary?
well, the point, I guess the fact that realizing that it had happened to Mom and like somebody I know.
Did you feel embarrassed talking to your friends about where I was and what was happening to me?
At first I thought it might have been embarrassing, but then I realized that really everybody has dealt with mental illness in some way or another.
Do you think that your friends now talk to you in a different way when they have issues because they feel like you have some different insight?
Well, when you're around the guys, you don't really talk really deep with your emotions, but I mean, they understand the history, and I guess if any of them had questions, they would, but nothing like that's come up so far.
I think as difficult as my illness has been for my children to understand, I think what it teaches them is that you don't have to be perfect ever to be loved, and that it's okay if it happens to you. And then I hope in turn they can support their friends, you know, they can support their children someday.